Hey everyone, I recently had the opportunity to run another introductory workshop about the best practices for getting your assets into Unreal Engine for LTU, or Lawrence Technical University. This workshop was completely free for all participants and was funded by Epic Mega Grants through LTU and was run fully remotely through Discord. This is a 4-part series that captures the entire workshop. The workshop covers the best practices for asset preparation using Maya and 3ds Max, and also the Datasmith workflow for Unreal Engine. Module 1 is a 2-part video series that covers the best practices of preparing your 3D models and data for Unreal Engine. Module 2 covers the 3ds Max to Datasmith workflow, and Module 3 covers the CAD to Datasmith workflow. If you found this helpful, let me know in the comments below, and I'll be happy to share more Unreal Engine content on my YouTube channel in the future. So with that, enjoy. And what I can begin doing is, just give an introduction about myself, just for, a quick couple minutes so you kind of understand my background. I will be taking you through this workshop that I put together. It's an Unreal Engine workshop on the model and data preparation workflow. All right. And my background has been, over the years, I've been working in the industry since 2010, has been a lot of automotive, has been a lot of retail, ArcViz, just a mixture of a lot of things here. So I have my links there. You can kind of take a look at my background and all the things that I've done over the years. This isn't everything since 2010, but it's fairly recent, and you'll see a good mix of stuff. So on my professional side, you'll see a lot of automotive. You'll see some with Ford, a lot of Honda, Lincoln, and all sorts of things. You'll see some shoes, fashion, apparel. I did that, quite a bit of that over the years as well. And, I also just have some, things that I just kind of work on the side as well. And then, lately I've been doing probably more so over the past 6 months, probably even before that. It was COVID starting, which was a catalyst that I had a lot of extra time, and I've been teaching since I've been in the industry, since about 2010, 11. All right, so you'll see here that I have my website, which is basically the same as my ArtStation, but you can take a look at that if you so please. But this one right here is the probably the more important one, and it's just I'm a 3D artist, right? And I've been teaching 3D art for a very long time, so I have I've been just kind of creating all of these videos to help people learn, and you'll see more recently I have a lot of Unreal Engine stuff, so I'm going to be doing a lot more real-time 3D stuff, so you guys can take a look at that. Try to update videos and keep it in sync with how I teach. Like I said, I teach 3D art, 3D modeling, texturing, lighting, all of that stuff. And using 3ds Max, using 3ds Max, using Maya, using Unreal Engine, using Unity. Those are the primary 3D softwares that I use. So there's that. So I'll whatever questions that you have, feel free to ask during the entire workshop. So you'll see here, this is the workshop schedule. So obviously you guys spent the first part of the morning here downloading the assets. So just to make sure I have these extracted, right? And I'm gonna just make sure that I run this in the background. I of course have everything set up, but I want to do a fresh download of these files and open it so I'm basically exactly in sync with everybody here. You should have installed 4.2, 6.1. So to get to this folder, you can go to the Assets UE LTU and just straight up open this U project here, or you can just go to launch 4.26.1. And then I can just browse to this folder here. And I'm going to bring over Maya, 3ds Max as well. And here's the Unreal Engine browser. So I can browse to the project, which you should have already done. I'm going to just hit more here real quick and do browse, because I want to make sure not to accidentally open. You'll see that I have a duplicate over here. So I can just go to the Unreal projects, and then the demo is the one that I'll be working on today. And then inside of that demo folder, that's my assets UE LTU, and I can go ahead and hit that. And that'll open. So this is a brand new, this is a clean open. It just takes, it's a light project. There, it's already open. How did it go with you guys today? I know that was something that we ran into last time. It took quite a while to compile shaders and everything. But how did it go today with this project? Was it pretty quick, or was it more like 5-10 minutes? Hopefully nobody was, waiting an hour or whatever.
No, it seemed pretty quick for everybody. I opened it up on the HP ZBook. I know Cody's working on the Mac and might have still been installing. Cody, are you still installing things?
I got it all installed. I'm opening the editor.
Gotcha.
Okay,
cool.
Awesome.
All right, yeah. So yeah, wasn't bad.
Great. That's good to hear. So I try to keep this light. We're definitely going to be adding content to this. So I have a couple alternatives if things get slowed down. So okay, yeah. So back to the PDF here. So we're going to be just now that everything's kind of downloaded and open. The other thing that I recommend is we're going to be covering the 3D data workflow, which means like if you guys have 3D models, you can bring your own 3D models and I can take you through a process. If you're using Maya, Max, Revit, Blender, it doesn't matter, right? You can bring all of that and I'll be able to help you with this workshop here, okay? To at least bring your models in. Now, we're going to be spending the first part of the module, though, is understanding the best practices for bringing in the 3D models. This isn't just export FBX, import FBX, and walk away. So we're going to understand all the things that you should be doing when you import or when you export out of your DCC software. You'll hear me use that word, which just means digital content creation. It's just a nice acronym for Maya, Max, Blender, Revit, and all of that, right? The next thing is we're going to take a look at specifically the Datasmith workflow. So Datasmith is a tool and plugin workflow inside of Unreal Engine that allows you to bring in basically any type of 3D data out there, any software, any CAD software. So this isn't just Autodesk software with Max, Maya, Revit, obviously not even Blender. It's you can use it for Rhino, Alias, curves, NURBS modeling, CAD software like CATIA, NX, and all these types of softwares. So we're going to look at the Datasmith workflow, and I broke it up into basically 2 parts, and then module 3 is going to be specifically importing CAD data. So we're gonna, take a look and just download some models. I've downloaded models already for you, so you can bring in those assets inside of Unreal Engine. All right. So each one is about an hour and a half, and then there's also workshop time. For about, it's going to range, between the demo content, which may be 45 minutes to an hour, and then the workshop time, which may be 30 minutes to 45 minutes. And the workshop time is for you guys to get your hands in Unreal Engine, get your hands in these softwares, and do it live here. And I can help you if you're running into any issues, or we can work together. If people know what have experience with this, we can all help each other. So, trying to create some sort of collaborative and remote environment where people can ask questions, and get the help that they need. Okay, so yeah, let's go to the next page here. So I just want to get a quick poll of the class. What software besides Unreal Engine do people have on their machines? Do people have 3ds Max or Maya or Blender or Revit on their machines, or does everybody just have just Unreal Engine?
I'm also using 3ds Max and Rhino.
Okay, perfect. Okay.
Industrial Design also has Fusion 360. We used to have CATIA, Inspire Studio, Alias, Maya. We have a fair few things.
Awesome. Perfect. So every one of those softwares that you just said, we're going to be able to show, we're going to walk through the process of adding that or bringing that into Unreal Engine. If you don't have any software, don't worry. I have everything already set up for you guys. Girls, in this folder here, this ArcViz room. All right, so this is what I'm going to open up first, or take a look. It's about a gig, but this is a Maya project here. What I'm going to do is just for the sake of simplicity, just grab these and then move them up one level. It doesn't really matter about this part. And then I will go ahead, once that's done, and delete this folder. All right, so we're going to be bringing in, essentially bringing in this environment here. And we're going to walk through, again, the best practices here. So if I go to Maya and I go to File, right, if this is a fresh, clean project of Maya, and I can go to File, Set Project. So that's the first thing that you always want to do, is I gave you a project here for Maya, and I can go up and I can go to my demo room, and I can just navigate to this ArcViz room, and then this is where I want to set it. So I hit set, and I can go ahead and hit open. And this step is just a Maya specific step, but I want to make sure that we can take a look at this in some different softwares. Okay, and then we want to look at room interior. Right, that's the one that's in there. So I'm going to just hit File Open. All right. So here we are. So you can see once this is loaded, by the way, if you don't have material, if it opens up like this, Clay, just hit the material editor here, or sorry, the textured view icon. That's also a 6 on the keyboard if you're using Maya, or if you're opening this file. This file was made in Maya 2020. So you know, just make sure you have that installed, so you'll be good to go. All right, so you can see that this scene already has some materials and textures already applied, and you know, it's everything is nicely organized. That's kind of the key thing that we're looking at here. Okay, so if we look at this here, we can see that if I select any object, it has a name, okay? And this is very important, right? And we're looking at best practices here. A lot of times people build scenes and the default name from Maya or Max, like Maya is gonna be Polysurface 1. And I've seen projects where it's Polysurface 1 all the way up to Polysurface 362, right? No naming conventions whatsoever. Right? And that makes it incredibly, incredibly difficult to navigate the scene, to find your objects, to search by objects. So you want to make sure things are named properly. Same thing with Max. Max will do cylinder, or box, or mesh, or something like that. Okay. One of the key things that you need to keep in mind is to use underscores. Like this, like table, lamp, or use camel case, right? You want to avoid special characters. You want to avoid using spaces. And frankly, in Maya, like let's say if I go to rename this and I go and do couch space new, watch what happens. Maya's just going to say like, nope, no spaces for you. We're only going to use underscores, right? 3ds Max will let you use spaces, but you want to be careful just to avoid using spaces at all, okay? Or special characters. Keep them nice and simple, okay? So if we take a look at the next slide, you know, regarding naming conventions, having some sort of logic to your models is going to be incredibly important, right? Meaning, if again, you know, I kind of go here and you can see this structure here, you'll see that there's this prefix here. It says SM. What does SM mean? If we go into Unreal Engine, you'll see that, most of these or some of these should have the word SM on that, on the names, and that just means static mesh. Okay, so that just means static mesh. The reason why we don't just use mesh is because M is used for materials. All right, so the purpose of this is to understand. So a prefix here, right at the beginning, is going to let you know if this is T for texture, M for material, MI for material instances, SM for static meshes, and so on. Then, if those are prefixes, right, then our suffixes are going to be, okay, what type, if this is a texture, what type of texture map is this? Is this a static mesh? Is it going to have maybe underscore LOD1 or underscore LOD2? Or it could be LOD1 and so on. As long as it's logical, and as long as somebody can look at your structure and say, okay, M metal chrome, okay, cool. M metal chrome light. All right, this is the light metal chrome. This is the dark one. Here's the static mesh for the chrome ball. Here's, immediately looking at this, T texture chrome D. That means that this is my diffuse texture for my chrome ball, okay, or for my chrome material. All right, so you want to make sure to just have proper naming conventions for your meshes, your models, your assets. If I open up this icon here, this is our Hypershade. This is just the material editor. And if I go ahead in here, you can see that I have this this material here, and it says MI carpet matte. So these materials came out of Unreal Engine and were kind of rebuilt. So, they'll sometimes have M or MI, but you can see that they also have the proper texture maps and everything linked. And they're all descriptive. This lets me know this is the coffee table material. This is the curtain material, right? We don't have like 50 materials that say Phong 1, Phong 2, Phong 3, or Lambert 1, 2, and 3, right? There's that whole adage about like when you're in the kitchen and working in the kitchen. I worked food service a long time, and a big thing was always clean as you go, right? So keep things organized as you go, meaning because it's pretty daunting to get to the end and you're like, oh man, I got like 100 models I got to name now. But if you just spent literally probably the 30 seconds as you were finishing up, or the minute, and naming them properly, grouping them properly, and so on and so forth, it would have saved you a ton of time at the end. All right. There are tools, by the way. Like, for example, if I go here and hit this drop down, there's like rename, right? So I can grab technically all of these vases here in Maya, right? And you can see it says SM vase. I can type in whatever I want. I can type in SM underscore new vase. Boom, look at that. SM new vase, done. Literally done. So even if you have to make it, don't feel like you're like, heck no, I'm not going to do 200 or 300 renaming as objects. Don't worry. 3ds Max has got tools. Revit's got every software is going to have tools to bulk rename. Okay, so very, very important to kind of keep things in, right? And then the other thing is, like, again, I said search by name. So we're in Unreal Engine. If I'm like, oh man, I want to select all my books, but they're all over the scene, right? They're all over the scene. If I name them properly, so I type in books here, look at that, boom. Here's like 100 or so books that I can select and apply whatever I want to them, or select them and group them, do whatever I want, right? Same thing, lamp, right? Boom, SM, desk lamp, floor lamp, boom. So all of that's there. That works the same here in the content browser, you guys. So if I go here into the, I want to go to ArcViz. Well, really, basically, if I do the same thing and type in lamp, you can see all of my materials for lamps, all of my materials, all of my models for lamps, all of my textures for lamps, right there, right? If I didn't name anything and it was just a mess and it was just, normal map 7, I would have no idea where to go. An incredible amount of time is wasted organize your scenes. So naming conventions, organization is absolutely crucial. Okay. At any given time as I'm going through this, feel free to ask questions. Right? Ask me questions or interrupt me is all good. So I don't feel like you guys, don't need to. But yeah, I mean, we're still keeping pretty basic here. All right. Units and coordinate system. This is one of those, if you're not careful, it's going to come and bite you, because if we take a look here, right? So I'm going to move that kind of my other monitor. Take a look, if I zoom out here a little bit in Unreal Engine. So I'll be bouncing back between the softwares, okay? The default unit of measure, or the default unit in Unreal Engine is centimeters, okay? So you want to make sure that you're using centimeters in your software, okay? If I go to Maya, the good thing is Maya is default centimeters. And I would say, I know probably people are so used to working with Imperial units or whatever. Stick to metric. It's just gonna make your lives a lot easier with these softwares. Again, not the end of the world if you do things in feet and inches, and then there's ways to convert it. But if you don't convert it, there's problems. So if we go to Windows Settings Preferences inside of Maya, you'll see that settings here is the linear and it's set to centimeter. That's exactly what we want, right? This is the default unit in Maya. In 3ds Max, it's right here, right? You can go to Customize Unit Setup, and you can see that it's set to metric centimeters. So the display unit is set to this, but be careful because you have to set the system unit setup also to centimeters. Sometimes, again, Max will be in inches or feet or whatever. You want to change this, okay? So you just hit OK, and then you're good to go, all right? The other thing is, you'll see this random cube here. This cube, I thought I named it. This is my scale ref, and it's 6 feet, okay? So this is basically just me standing in this room, right? I'm 6 feet, I'll stand in this room. 183 centimeters, okay, is exactly 6 feet, all right? If you want to use 5'10", 5'6", 5'8", or just using like 5 feet or whatever, you certainly can. You can just enter those centimeters here. Okay. The reason I have this in here is, yes, this looks about right? Like I walk through this door, I'm not going to be hitting my head on this door frame, or I'm about a little bit taller than the slam, shoulder height. So this just puts things in perspective for me. Okay, it's incredibly helpful. The other thing is, especially with teaching and students get excited and they just start modeling and they're doing great and they're not paying attention to scale. Well, I was like, oh yeah, everything's good. Then they maybe start lighting or they're trying to do some physics stuff and they're like, what the heck, nothing's working. And then I'm like, go ahead and create a cube that's 183 centimeters tall. And then they do that and then they do this. Oh crap, right? They essentially created a miniature model of their scene. Okay, so you want to make sure not only to use the right units, but you're also creating and importing and building assets at the right scale. All right, that's very, very important. Okay, so those are the units within Unreal Engine. Now again, we're going to cover ways. I'm going to at least show you a way. Hey, if you didn't, then you can either rescale your objects. You just kind of saw me use a scale ref and rescale the room easily. And then on export, you can also change the scale. Okay. Okay. So the other thing to understand is this. Look at this coordinate system. Okay. You see this little red, green, blue down here? This is X, Y, Z. Okay. Maya is a left-handed coordinate system, right? Meaning that this is Y up, forward is X positive, and then going outwards is Z positive, okay? If you look at 3ds Max, 3ds Max is a little bit different. 3ds Max is actually the same thing. It's still a left-handed coordinate system, but it's kind of switched with Z and Y, okay? So again, if you kind of take a look, 3ds Max is Z up right hand here, And Unreal Engine or Maya's Y up left hand. Yeah, this should be fine. And then Maya is Y up. The key thing that really matters is understanding the Z up and Y up, because if you're not careful, you'll have rotations on your objects. But the good thing is FBX is going to automatically rotate the correct orientation. So when they come into Unreal Engine, they'll be in the right orientation. The other thing too is, when you're rotating things, sometimes you have to swap the Y and the Z. If you're moving something in Unreal Engine versus Maya, if you're trying to copy transforms. Okay, so understanding the coordinate system, and the other thing that you need to be careful of is sometimes you get this. You see how it kind of zooms away. Very, very large scenes or very, very small scenes could potentially cause issues inside of Unreal Engine. That's because they use, there's clipping and they use floating points. But if you go super, super large, so you have tons of zeros, or if you go small, tons of zeros in the decimals, that could cause rounding errors and cause artifacts. All right, so just be careful of that. If you're doing kind of just core ArcViz scenes, or everything's kind of contained in the scene, you're good. I've only ever run into this when we've literally had to create like a mile-long terrain and have vehicles driving through, right? So in that instance, you just have to be careful of how things are created. Sometimes you have to change things to meters to support that, but most of the time you can just stick with centimeters. All right, so that's kind of the unit coordinate system. Understanding that, right? And then if we take a look now here, all right, now let's take a look at actually, just looking at some export options, right? Because we actually want to get into Unreal Engine here, right? So I'm gonna grab something. I'm gonna grab an asset here and bring it into Unreal Engine. So what I want to do is grab this couch here. Okay, you can see that it has transforms and rotations and everything. This is fine. Okay, I'm going to go to File, Export, and then I'm going to grab the FBX. It's just opening up on my other monitor, where the window is anyways. And you can move this, and I'm going to make an export folder, and I'll actually show you this real quick through Windows Explorer. I'll make one just called Demo. And I'm going to call this, remember, this is what it's going to import it as. So I want to make sure that the name of this FBX matches. So it's going to be SM Couch. Okay. And actually, I should have, let me reset this to the current preset. And I can show you the settings that you typically want to use. Okay. So again, you want to make sure to go to File, Export. If you're using Maya or Max, these options are exactly the same. Change the file type to FBX. Then you're here. Now, typically you'll have Autodesk Media Entertainment, which is the default. This is great if you're switching between Max and Maya and other softwares. But you want to make sure to go here, and it's best practice to make sure that smoothing groups are enabled, that triangulate is enabled as well. Those are kind of the main ones here. And then you want to leave tangents and binormals disabled. I mean, we don't need smooth mesh either, but this should be fine. Using these settings will be fine because we're not using any smoothing on any of these objects. If you had animations, you would import the animations. In this case, we're just doing a static scene. So I can either leave that checked. Since I'm not bringing any animation, it's fine. Cameras. If I had cameras, it would bring that over. Lights, same thing. Unreal Engine does a pretty good job with the lights, converting the lights. I mean, I typically just recreate them in Unreal Engine anyways. And then any audio. Embed media is an important one. You're going to want to leave that disabled because what that's going to do is embed the textures with the FBX. So it's going to double up on textures. So if you take a look here, in my ArcViz room, you'll see I have this folder called Source Images. Look at that. This is all of the textures for this project, and this is in the Source Images folder. Over here, I have exports. This is where, if you guys don't have Maya or Max and you want to follow along, just go here. Just go to this folder. I already exported every single object here, so you have it, okay? So all of this is here, and you can pull in basically whichever, like you can find the couch one right here, SM couch. Boom, it's right here, all right? So I'm gonna, I'll be doing it live to demonstrate the import-export process. So you can grab those. And then I can scroll down here a little bit under advanced options. Take a look here. Scale factor 1, automatic, file units converted to centimeters. So this is saying, because sometimes you'll notice, hey, I created in inches exported, but it was fine when I brought it into Unreal Engine. Or sometimes it'll apply a scale factor. Now this is a scale factor of 1. If I had my units inside of Maya changed to inches, this would have a scale factor of 2.54, right? So it's 1 inch for every 2.54 centimeters, or 2.5. And the other thing is up axes, okay? Now the thing is, I said Unreal Engine is Z up, and Maya is Y up, right? Now we're gonna leave this Y up, and I'm gonna show you what's gonna happen once we bring that into Unreal Engine. And then we have UI, this is fine. And FBX file format, you can just kind of leave it at the recent one. Sometimes, this is fine. You can just leave it on the recent one. So with that, I'm in my demo folder and I'm going to SM, so static mesh couch. Go ahead and export selection. All right, so it goes ahead and exports that. All right, so what I want to do now is go to Unreal Engine and let's import the asset. So I'm going to clear this here, and I'm going to make a new folder here. I'm going to go to the content, right click on content at the very top and do new folder. And in this new folder, I'm just going to call it workshop. So this is where we're going to just bring in all of our assets, okay? I know I'm going to be bringing in Datasmith, so I'm going to kind of break this up into 2 folders here. So I'm going to have my FBX workflow here, and then I'm going to have my new folder Datasmith here. And there. Oh, probably write Datasmith, or you can just hit F2 to rename. Perfect. So this FBX folder is here. And we want to go ahead now and actually let's jump to a clean scene of Maya, or sorry, a clean scene of Unreal Engine. So I'm just going to hit Control N, literally just new level. And I'm going to grab this default level. Okay, this is just going to be a nice clean level that I can bring in, drop. It's got all of our lighting set up and everything. Okay, with this here, I can now go to add and import. So there's a couple ways to import in Unreal Engine. You can go to right click right in the folder and do import here, or you can simply hit add import here and to import this, or you can even go to the wherever you have the FBX. I'll make this a little bit smaller. And I can just straight up drag this in to Unreal Engine. Each one of these ways that I just showed you, the 3 different ways, gets you to this window. So it doesn't really matter which one that you use. Okay, so what I want to do now is actually just hit reset to default so we all have the same settings. Okay, we're not doing any rigging or characters or anything, so I don't need skeletal mesh enabled. Generate missing collisions. I actually want to disable this for right now. We're going to actually make custom collisions here in a little bit. The next thing is, if you expand this window here under mesh, look at that. You have all of these other parameters and everything. Really, what matters, the main ones that I typically mess with is combined meshes. So if you look back in Maya, you'll see that these books, right? If I bring in these books, I can say, bring these all in as one mesh, or bring in however many books these are, 100, and it starts at 5, so like 160, or bring these books in as separate objects. So that'll be 150, 60 separate objects. I don't want that. You know, I don't want that. I need that. I may break these up like this, where I'll group them and then combine them like that. And actually, that's what I did on the export. Okay, so that's what combined mesh is going to be helpful. And we're going to take a look at you know, kind of just you know, doing a couple things and running through a couple different examples. But for now, it's just a single couch, so I don't need to combine mesh. And then if you created custom LODs, this is where you'd say import mesh LODs, which we're not. Definitely, I mean, I would say, again, leave all of these default, import normals, blah, blah, blah. Yep, MICT, that's what you want to use. And you have some transform settings. This is fine. All of these are good. This is if you wanted to offset it after bringing it in. Here, look at this. Import uniform scale. You can scale your objects here on import as well. So if you wanted to do that, I highly recommend you do not mess with scale on your objects. What you should be keeping in mind in best practice is build your objects to the correct scale in the right position and orientation, and you won't have to worry about that later down the road. All right. And here, sometimes if you notice this force front axes, x-axis, remember what I was talking about, left hand, right hand, y up, z up? Sometimes you're like, what the heck? Why is this coming in rotated 90 degrees? You'll need to do force front axis for that. But typically, if you bring in all your assets together, you want to use the same setting, okay? The next thing is search local for material. This is actually important because let's say I bring in the material, my model, and then I move the materials and textures. This is only going to search for the materials inside of the folder. Or that's what local means. So I can do all assets. So it'll do a search. It'll take a little bit longer, but it'll say, here's a material with the same name. Here's a material with the same name. We're going to make sure they have the same material assigned and not duplicate it. Because if you make different folders and then you try to be too over-organized, I would say, or make too many folders, then you're going to have duplicate materials and it's going to be way more to manage. Okay, yep, create new materials. This is fine. And this lets you know the file axis. See, this is what Y up means. So Y up is it, or Unreal Engine is telling us that it's going to import this file that has a Y up orientation with a right hand coordinate system. So it's going to fix that. That's what's really nice about Unreal Engine. Unreal Engine does a really good job, even if your models have bad orientations and stuff like that. It's pretty much going to fix it. So I'll simply hit import. Boom, look at that. So we did an import. And then we can see what came in. It came in with a material. It came in with a diffuse map, T-leather-D. That means this is a textured leather diffuse map. Then I have T-leather-N, which is the leather texture normal map. Okay. If we want to bring this into our scene now, you can simply left-click drag, boom. Drag it right into your Unreal scene. Now, there's something that you may notice that's a little bit off. Or not off, I would say, but you may be noticing something here. If I select this couch, I'm going to hit Control-1 to isolate, right? This takes us to our next slide, which always throws people off, which is pivots. Oh man, pivots. Okay. Unreal Engine, if I hit W in Maya, look at where this pivot is. This pivot is right underneath the couch, and I can rotate and move. But look at where the pivot is here. What do you think this is based off of? Yeah, I mean it's right here. It's in the PowerPoint or it's in the PDF. Unreal Engine doesn't give a crap what your pivot is inside the software. It says all I care about is where the model is relative to. Let me turn on the grid here so you can see the grid. This 0, 0, 0. Okay, and if I select, let me go ahead and minimize this. If I go ahead and select the couch group here, you can see it's set to the origin. This is a Maya thing. So as well, if I go ahead and create a cube and I scale it up, move it, it's all the way over here. Look at all these transforms, right? Scale everything. I hit Control G. Look at that. You're like, what the heck? Did you freeze transforms? No, I didn't. What this does is it takes this group here and puts that pivot right at the center of the origin. Okay. Now, again, I'm just showing you what Unreal cares about. Unreal doesn't care about this pivot. Unreal doesn't even care about the group pivot. It doesn't care. I just happen to have this group pivot here at the 0, 0, 0. So what that means is if I go back to Unreal Engine and I want to move and position this, and I'm like, oh man, this is going to be super annoying to deal with. I don't want to have to move this off this awkward pivot. There's a couple things you can do. All right, Unreal Engine does let you modify pivots. If you're just bringing in assets, placing them and setting them to static, which means that they'll stay there and never move, using this next set of techniques is going to be helpful. Okay. So if I hit W, I can hold Alt. Look at this, Alt middle mouse drag. Okay, and then now I can move and position this wherever I want. But watch, based off the center of this object. Now watch this. If I click off of that and click on, the pivot's gone. The pivot move is set back to its original pivot. This W Alt middle mouse drag, this is a temporary, like just a quick pivot modification. Okay, that's the way to think about it. All right. The other way to do this, let's say, I want to set it on the corner and maybe make a line of couches or something like that. I can actually go here to this corner of this couch, right click, okay, and do pivot, set pivot offset here. Boom, goes ahead and moves it. Now be careful. Don't click off quite yet, because what you need to say is, oh yeah, it's good. Because if you just click this, you're like, what the heck? It didn't work. It set it back to its original. So right click, pivot, set pivot offset here. So you have to right click in the position that you want this to be offset. Then right click, do that again. So pivot, set pivot offset here. And then right click that, and then it's not cooperating because I keep selecting other objects. So I'm going to move this up like so. And then pivot, set pivot offset here. And then you can now, because it kept like clicking through the object, set pivot and then set as pivot offset. So this is a two-step process. You set pivot, you right click on the position, the area that you want to move this pivot, with set pivot offset here, and then you do set pivot offset. So boom. Now click off and click on the object. Look at that. Now we're good. Now we're golden. I can actually set this on the 0 here, right? And move this up a little bit. And then now we're good. I can hit Control W and move these. Look at this. I can move these, rotate these 90 degrees, and move these couches, close to each other or what have you. Maybe give them a little bit of room. Here's the disclaimer. Here's the catch. Doing this only applies this to the world. So when you're in Unreal Engine, you have to understand you're now dealing with kind of two different areas to modify models. Okay. One being the outliner or the level itself. So this is a level change, but this is not a mesh change. Okay, so watch, if I bring this in here, look at that. I brought in the same couch, and it has the original pivot. But if I take the couch that's in the level and duplicate it, look at that. The pivot's good. Okay. So hopefully you understand these are a couple ways to change the pivots. There's one more way, and you can change it on the mesh level. So if I select this static mesh couch, double click this, we're going to get the static mesh menu or editor, what have you here. Okay, so I can do here. So all I did was double click that couch, and now we're in this window or whatever model you're using. Then I can go to show pivot. Look at this pivot right here. That's the pivot. Now, in my PDF, I know, actually, back in Maya, I know that if I wanted to bring this back and put this on the origin, I just have to use the opposites of these values here. Okay? And here's one thing to keep in mind. You have to be careful because what did we say? Maya is Y up and Unreal Engine is Z up. So that's why in the PDF you have, if you probably zoom in here, look at these transforms here. So I'm going to zoom in here. And I have the transforms already set here. Sorry if it's a little bit small, but that's -185, 0, and 5. So what I can do now is scroll down here. I want to go to, is it, sorry, not build son, it's transform settings. Import settings, transform, there we go. This is where I can manually override the meshes or the transforms here, okay? And the transforms, just take a look here, are -185, 0, and 5. Now, if you hit enter, nothing's going to happen because these are import settings, right? So in order to actually update the mesh, I have to re-import base mesh. So once you hit enter, go ahead and hit re-import base mesh. Boom, look at that. There we go. Now the object has been moved in offset. I can hit save here, close this out. Now, look at that. It updated on our model here. You just have to be careful because now if you set 0, 0, 0, this is great for placing assets, right? But if you change those transforms and try to import your whole scene, things aren't going to align, right? So we're gonna go through that process of importing more of these assets and getting everything aligned. I'm just using the one couch so we can understand all these different things on a simple model. So if I go to the next slide, okay, here, and you'll see that now this is an important one, but it's also an easy one because Unreal Engine does a lot of the lifting here. Okay, is UV mapping and light maps. Okay, a lot of people don't care about UVs. A lot of people don't want to deal with them, but there are easy workaround solutions, especially when it comes to ArcViz stuff. So if I go here, you can see that we have our models, okay? If I select this coffee table and I go to UV editor, I go to UV editor, take a look. These are UVs, right? And I can kind of turn that off so we don't need to see the wood behind it. And I can bring over my UV toolkit. Then we have our UV set editor, okay? So all this is, right, is just, this is a nice clean auto unwrap. And you'll see that I have a UV map here. And then you'll see that I have a light map UV. These are the two important ones. Technically, your UV map 1, if you're just doing tileable textures, they can be overlapping, okay? So you'll see here UV channels 0 and 1. Okay, so Unreal Engine starts at 0. It doesn't start at 1. So that means sometimes you'll hear kind of interchangeable, look at map 1, look at UV1, or map channel 1, UV1. Just know that if I'm talking about light map UVs, I'll explicitly say light map UVs, all right? Light map UVs are important because they are used for storing lighting information, baked lighting information into those maps, okay? And if you don't have good light map UVs, you're gonna have a hard time, or a rough time, right? It's just something that you can't ignore, all right? Now the good thing is, like I said, Unreal Engine will auto-generate those. it can auto generate those UVs on import. Okay. And then, you know, it just helps to understand, well, if I'm doing a real-time lit scene, I don't need light map UVs, then it's not a worry, right? But if, again, you're doing like high-end visualization, you're going to need baked GI. You're going to need baked static lighting, at least a stationary light that bakes that detail. That is like the way that you're going to be getting high-end visual fidelity. Without baked lighting, you're not going to have a good-looking scene. All right? So there are very, very easy ways. I can take this table here and I can go to create and what? I mean, you can just basically do an automatic. That's what this is. Just as automatic, we'll go ahead and reflatten out everything and repack it, done. Works great. Works really great on geometric objects like tables. Okay. Then, you know, once you're here, you can do like an arrange and layout inside of Maya. And then you can like relay them out and it'll repack them. So it'll verify that your UVs are non-overlapping. Okay, so a couple quick, easy tools. We're not going to spend a lot of time here in Maya or doing this here, but that's just a very quick and easy way. The other thing that you have to keep in mind though is, well, we have something like this. This is a very organic statue. And if you try to use, watch what happens. I'll try to do this on both, so you can see what happens. If I'm just like, I don't want to spend the effort unwrapping, I'm just going to auto unwrap this. Watch. I go to create, auto unwrap. Ugh, that's bad. This is very, very, very bad. Look at this. Look at this nightmare of seams. You guys, if you try to pull this off on an organic object, you will 100% have artifacts here on this statue. There's just no way around it. Okay? So don't worry. Maximaya, these tools got really nice ways. Like this is one of those though that Unreal Engine has a really good auto-generating UVs, but it can't do this. It can't do this, what I'm about to show you next, right? So organic objects, you need to manually unwrap them, right? And it's very simple. UVs are very simple when you break it down. So I can just go to UV, delete UVs. Okay, so there. This thing has no more UVs. So I'll create camera-based UVs. All right, so I have this. All right. Now the annoying thing is this thing is triangulated, so I can't double-click edges. Right? I can't double-click edges. But there's a couple little quick tools you can try. I can take this mesh, hold Shift right-click, and do what's called quadrangulate. It's a weird word. You can quadrangulate that. And I'm going to have to open up the settings here. So if I go to quadrangulate here, you can see that I would basically disable some of these settings here. So I don't want to keep hard edges there. Yeah, disable keep hard edges and keep group faces, and it'll do its best to quadrangulate. So quadrangulate on a previously subdivided mesh, so one that was made to be subdivided, I can go ahead and now select these. There, something like that. Okay? Or, right, if it doesn't do a good job triangulating it, let's see what the other tool does, where I can select this edge here and go to select continuous edges. And not bad. Continuous edges works pretty good, but I have to do some cleanup here. All right, so we can kind of just control click. So that's how I can kind of select through this mess. And I can select that bottom. The bottom was much, much cleaner, which is nice. And I can, go ahead and just, quickly grab these. So what am I doing? I'm selecting edges. I'm selecting seams. Okay. So the nice thing is I can take all of this and then do this and do one that goes basically all the way around the mesh here. And I'm going to just do a quick and dirty cut because for the sake of time, and I don't want to spend too much time on UVs. and deselect, these edges here. Something like this. Okay. So we have this. Then once you get that, that's it. Like I'm doing this because I understand UVs and I know where I want my seams to be. So I can go to Shift right click cut. Look. Now you simply grab this. I manually put my seams and then do an unfold. Okay. There you go. And then once you do the unfold, okay, you can do a layout. Boom. Look at that. Not bad. Obviously these are far from perfect because ideally I'd want to add some seams here, but again, I don't want to, spend too much time on this. And I can continue to, just add in, so I can select continuous edges there. And see, it kind of goes around. Right, so if you cut this here, it's a little bit dirty there, but yeah, you get the idea, right? So hopefully, and so now I have these UVs. I want to spend more time. For disclaimer, I don't want to spend more time. I got a video on my YouTube that shows you in-depth UVs, so take a look at that if you're like, I don't like UVs. Take a look at those videos, it'll help you out. But again, here are, the UVs here. All right, so you just want to make sure that you have nice, clean UVs before going much further. Because if you run into light baking issues, that's why. Auto unwrap works great again for most objects. There. So now we're back to the beginning. Okay. So if I go here now, right? Because I was in Maya for a little bit. What's the point, right? So we can see this inside of Unreal Engine. So I'm going to double click this couch again. And then now we're here. And I want to take a look at this UV. Look at this. This is our couch model, right? Same thing. UV channel 0, UV channel 1, which are the two ones that are used for mask maps and diffuse maps. Then UV channel 2. So you could, if I go back to build settings here, generate light map UVs are enabled. So I made sure that was enabled on import. And it's using, it says destination light map. It's a little bit clipped here. Destination light map 2. So it's saying 2. I'm trying to get the whole word here. There. Destination light map index. This is the index. 0, 1, 2. Spacing it 2. Okay. Now, if you want to modify, let's say your couch is an object that is it's there. It's front and center. It's a hero piece. It's a large prop. Right. What you can do is you can increase the light map resolution here. And you'd want to increase the light map resolution here. So it's set to 64, but I can set this to maybe a little bit larger, like 128. And then minimum light map resolution, set this to 128, and then hit apply changes. Because what you're telling this is you want the spacing to be based off of 128 pixels, right? That's the size of the image. So if I go ahead and hit apply, look at that. It's giving us more real estate. I can go ahead and actually set this to 512, and you can kind of see what happens. It's giving us more real estate. All right, so if you want the padding to be based off of 512, you need to make sure that both of those are set all the same. Okay, so we're gonna take a look at some quick light map baking, right? Because like if I go to, so let me just save this level here, and I'll just call this demo map because we're going to come back and take a look at other assets here. And if I go to the maps and go to the room, save selected, that's fine. And I can go to lit and I can go to lighting only. This is the baked lighting, right? So it's incredibly important and helpful to have that in here, to have good UVs for that. And if I select this couch, right? Or if I actually go down here I believe it's, we can take a look maybe under light mass. You know, we'll probably just touch that. We touched on quite a bit on the light map or light mass and light baking. But this is where, oh, here they are. The light maps are, right? This is where all of this information is stored. And if I double click this, it looks like a jumbled mess, but this is what Unreal Engine uses. If you don't have good light UVs and light map UVs on your models, then you're going to have bad lighting, bad bake lighting, and issues later. Artifacts. You're going to see these weird artifacts all over your models. So just understand that how all of these relate. Okay, and so that's UVs. All right, that concludes the recording for this specific module. Be sure to check out the rest of the modules down below in the description. And if you found this helpful, please let me know down below. And definitely plan to put out more Unreal Engine and Unity and real-time 3D content here in the near future. So thanks and take care, everyone.